I watched my daughter through the diner window, her order pad tucked under her arm as she balanced 3 plates across the length of her forearm without spilling a drop. 22 years old, second year of nursing school at Ohio State, and she still pulled double shifts at Riverside Diner every weekend. The November cold had already started biting through my jacket. I'd driven 40 minutes to surprise her with lunch before the holiday week started, and I stood there on the sidewalk just watching her work for a minute before going in. Pride does something strange to your chest when it mixes with exhaustion on your behalf. Her name was Claire, my daughter, the person I'd built every decision around since her mother Susan lost her fight with ovarian cancer 10 years ago. 12 years of just the two of us. I worked as a high school shop teacher in Columbus, not glamorous, not lucrative, but steady, enough to keep the lights on and the tuition manageable with her financial aid. Claire never asked me for more than I had. She'd gotten her work permit at 16 and never looked back. My phone rang while I was still standing outside. My brother's name came up on the screen. Victor. You and Claire still coming Thursday? Thanksgiving at his place in Dublin, the kind of suburb where every lawn looks like a magazine cover. We'll be there, probably around 2. There was a pause, the kind that means something's coming. About that, Adrienne was thinking since her parents are flying in from Scottsdale, and she's trying to keep the table manageable. Maybe it'd work better if Claire came for dessert, like 5 o'clock or so. I shifted my weight. What does manageable mean, Victor? It's not a big deal. Just Adrienne's mom and dad are pretty formal people. They do things a certain way, and Claire? Look, she's great, she really is. But she waitresses, and Adrienne's worried her dad might say something awkward about it. You know how he is. I watched Claire through the glass. She was writing something down, nodding at an older couple in the corner booth, smiling that real smile she got from her mother. She waitresses because she's putting herself through nursing school, I said. I know that. She has a 3.8 GPA. I know that too, man. But Adrienne's father doesn't, and she'd rather just not have to explain it. Another pause. It's one dinner. We'll have her come for pie and everything'll be fine. I told him we'd be there at 2 and hung up. I didn't tell Claire about the call. That night she made pasta from scratch at our kitchen table, humming something I didn't recognize. She'd found a recipe online and was trying it before she made it for her study group. That was Claire, always practicing something before she offered it to other people. She had a card for Adrienne already sitting on the counter. She picked it out 2 weeks earlier. A fall harvest design with a handwritten note inside about how grateful she was to have family nearby while school got hard. I read it when she wasn't looking. The note was 2 paragraphs. Thursday came. We made the drive out to Dublin in my 8-year-old Chevy. Claire had her hair done, wore the burgundy blouse she saved for occasions. She'd brought a pecan pie she'd baked the night before, not from a box, the real thing. With the lattice crust she'd watched 4 YouTube videos to learn. I'd told her it was unnecessary. She'd said she wanted to contribute. We pulled into Victor's driveway at 158. The street looked like a car dealership. 2 Lexuses and a Range Rover I didn't recognize. Probably Adrienne's parents. Victor's Audi was already out of the garage, moved to make room for the guests. I parked on the street. We're early, Claire said, checking herself in the visor mirror. That's good, right? Maybe we can help with something. Maybe. Adrienne answered the door. She was in heels in her own home on Thanksgiving, which told you everything you needed to know about the day's energy. Her smile when she saw me was genuine enough. When her eyes moved to Claire, it went a degree cooler. You're early. Not how nice, just you're early. Thought we could help set up, I said. Everything's already handled. Her gaze dropped to Claire's pie. Oh, you didn't need to do that. She took it without saying thank you and set it on the entryway table like it was a coat. Adrienne, I started. Victor's in the back with my father. Why don't you go say hello? She turned back to Claire. Sweetheart, my parents brought Angie and Peter with them, our neighbors from when I grew up, and they're a little sensitive about, well, they ask a lot of questions about careers and schools and all of that. I just think it might be easier if you spent some time in the sunroom while we do the introductions, just until dinner's on the table. It's heated. There's a TV. The kids are in there. Claire was 22. The kids in the sunroom were 9 and 11. She's not waiting in the sunroom, I said. Claire put her hand on my arm. It's fine, Dad. It's not. Dad. Her voice was quiet but firm. The voice she used when she was asking me not to make a scene. I'll go say hi to the kids, it's okay. And she went. She walked down the hallway with her shoulders straight and her head up, and I watched her go, and I did not follow her. That's the thing I have to live with. I didn't follow her. I found Victor in the backyard by the fire pit with the man I assumed was Adrian's father, Randolph. Big guy, tan from Arizona winters. The kind of handshake that's meant to establish something. Victor introduced me as his brother, the school teacher. Randolph nodded the way you nod at information that doesn't interest you. What grade? High school. Shop class, some woodworking, basic engineering. He looked at his bourbon. Trades are having a moment, I guess. Victor laughed, a little too quickly. I stayed out there for 20 minutes. I'll never get back. I looked at my brother, the same guy who'd split a bag of Halloween candy with me every year growing up, who'd called me from the hospital parking lot when his kids were born, who'd flown in to help me clean out Susan's things because I couldn't do it alone. I looked at him laughing at Randolph's jokes and I thought, when did this happen? Where's Madison and Josh? I asked. His kids, 15 and 13. Inside getting ready. Adrian wants a photo before dinner, all dressed up. He smiled. She found this photographer. A photographer, for Thanksgiving. It's a thing she does. Family portraits, holiday stuff. I excused myself. The sunroom was off the back of the house, glassed in, heated, exactly as described. The two young cousins were watching something on an iPad. Claire was sitting on a wicker labo seat, still in her burgundy blouse, her hands folded in her lap. She'd found a throw blanket on the arm of the chair and draped it over her legs. She was looking out the window at the backyard where I'd just been standing. She saw me come in, tried to smile. They have good Wi-Fi at least, she said. I sat down next to her. How long? 20 minutes, maybe 25. She shrugged. Madison came through on her way to get changed. She saw me and said, "Oh wow, you're actually out here," like it was funny. A pause. Then she said I should help myself to anything in the mini fridge. Claire gestured to a small beverage fridge in the corner, the kind you see in dorm rooms. I checked. It has Capri Suns and leftover Halloween candy. I didn't say anything. I'm used to it, Dad. Those 4 words hit me exactly the way they're hitting you right now. Used to what? She picked at the edge of the throw blanket. Auntie Anne has never really, she's always been kind of like this with me. Remember 2 Christmases ago when she handed out gifts and I got the candle set? The ones that were clearly a gift with purchase from a department store, still in the cellophane with the store's logo on it. Madison got AirPods. Josh got a gaming controller. And I got the candle set. She said it matter-of-factly, no dramatics, which somehow made it worse. Why haven't you said anything? She looked at me with a patience I hadn't earned. Because Victor is all you have left, Dad, besides me. And I didn't want to be the reason you lost him. I pulled her against me. She let me. She smelled like the pecan pie she'd baked and left on Adrian's entryway table to be forgotten. You listen to me, I said into her hair, the way I used to talk to her when she was little and scared. You are the reason I have anything. You work harder than any person in this house. You study at midnight after a double shift. You practice that pie crust 4 times because you wanted it to be right, because that's who you are. Your mother was like that. She did everything with that kind of care, and you have her in every single thing you do. Dad, her voice cracked a little. We're going inside, and we're going to sit at that table. Please don't. We're going inside, Claire. She wiped her eyes, nodded once. We walked back into the house through the kitchen. Adrian was at the island arranging a cheese plate. She looked up when we came through. Oh, dinner's almost ready. I was just about to. Where'd we sit? I asked. She faltered. I have a seating arrangement, so. Show me. She led us to the dining room. Long table, pressed linens, little hand-lettered place cards that had probably taken her an hour. I found my card, far end, near the kitchen, between Victor and an empty seat for one of the caterers to pass through. I found Claire's card at the very end, half in the kitchen doorway with enough space that every time someone came in or out with a dish, they'd have to squeeze past her. I picked up both cards and moved us to the two open seats in the middle, near the window. "Those are for my parents," Adrian said. "Put them at the end. This is my home. The seating was designed to make my daughter invisible," I said. "Move your parents." Her jaw tightened. She took the cards from me and walked away without saying anything else. Dinner started. Victor said grace, the practice kind that sounds like a speech. The food was catered. Not cooked, catered. Butternut squash soup and a turkey that had never met an oven in this house. Adrian's father held court from the middle of the table about the Arizona real estate market. Nobody asked me anything. Nobody asked Claire anything. She was eating quietly, watching the room with careful eyes. The same eyes she used when she was observing a clinical patient. Taking everything in, giving nothing away. At some point, Adrian's neighbor Peter, the one they brought from Scottsdale, leaned across the table toward Claire with the particular energy of a man who considers himself charming. "So what do you do, sweetheart?" "I'm in nursing school, second year at Ohio State." "And in between studying?" said with a small smile. "I waitress on weekends to cover tuition." He nodded slowly the way someone does when they've confirmed what they suspected. "That's tough." "Good for you." Turned back to his conversation. "Adrian, from 2 seats down, she's very hard-working," said the way you describe appliance. Claire's hands stilled on either side of her plate. I put my fork down. "She has a 3.8 GPA, I said, calmly. The table had gone quiet the way tables do when the energy shifts. She was offered a clinical scholarship for next fall. She was recognized at her program last spring for patient care hours. She volunteered extra hours over the summer at Riverside Memorial, on the oncology floor, because her mother died of cancer, and she wanted to understand what those nurses do." I looked at Adrian. "She baked a pie from scratch for your table. It's probably still sitting by the front door." "That's very sweet," Adrian said, the silk over ice voice. "She didn't bring it to be sweet. She brought it because she wanted to give something to this family. That's the kind of person she is. The kind you apparently find it easier to put in a sunroom with a Capri Sun." The table was quiet. Randolph had stopped mid-sentence. "She sat in there for 25 minutes on Thanksgiving because you were embarrassed. She waits tables. Meanwhile, your daughter," I glanced at Madison, who had stopped with her fork halfway to her mouth, "is a sophomore who told her cousin she was out there like it was the punchline to a joke." "I think," Victor said carefully, "maybe we should." "You've been quiet this whole time," I said to him. "Just like last Christmas. Just like the year before that." I wasn't raising my voice. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't yelling. I was saying the truth the way you say it when you finally stopped being afraid of what it costs. You have seen this for years, and you have said nothing because keeping Adrian comfortable was easier than protecting your niece. That is not something I'm going to sit across the table from anymore. Claire touched my arm. "Dad?" I looked at her. She shook her head slightly. I stood up. Didn't knock anything over. Didn't make a show of it. I pushed my chair back and I stood up. Claire stood with me. We walked to the front door. I picked up the pecan pie from the entryway table. Nobody had moved it, which told me nobody had looked at it since we arrived. "Take it," I said to Claire. "We made it." "Yeah, and we're taking it home." We drove back to Columbus, mostly in silence. Somewhere past the highway exit, Claire said, "I didn't want you to do that." "I know. Are you okay?" I thought about it. "I will be." "He's all you have left, except me." "You're enough," I said. "You've always been enough." We got home, put on the game, ate the entire pecan pie straight from the dish. Claire fell asleep on the couch around 9 with her biochem textbook open on her chest. I turned off the TV and sat there in the quiet for a long time. Victor didn't call that night. Didn't call the next day. 3 days later, I got a text. "Adrian says the way you spoke to her guests was unacceptable. She's really upset. I think you owe her an apology." I wrote back one sentence. "When you're ready to talk about what's been done to Claire for the past 3 years, I'm here." He didn't respond. Winter came. Claire finished her semester with straight A's. First time she'd pulled it off while working weekends. She sent me a photo of her grade report with a single emoji. The scholarship she'd been nominated for, she got it. Full clinical funding for her final year. I took her to dinner at the Italian place she'd been wanting to try, and we ordered the whole menu practically. In February, Victor showed up at my door on a Saturday morning. No call ahead. I was in the garage reorganizing my workbench. I heard the car in the driveway and looked up, and there he was, standing at the entrance with his hands in his jacket pockets. I didn't stand up, kept working. "You could have called," I said. "You would have told me not to come." He wasn't wrong. He stood in the door of the garage for a while. I let him. Finally he said, "Adrian and I are separating." I set down the wrench. Her parents were in town in January. Her dad and I got into it. He made some comment about me not having the ambition for the life Adrian had been used to. I finally said what I thought of him. A short, humorless exhale. Turned out she agreed with her father. He sat down on the step. "I've been staying at a hotel in Worthington for 3 weeks. I didn't say I was sorry. He hadn't come for that. "I kept thinking about Thanksgiving," he said, "about Claire in the sunroom, about you standing up and the whole table going quiet. I kept thinking, why wasn't that me? Why wasn't I the one who stood up?" He looked at the workbench, the tools on the pegboard, the kind of wall I'd built in this garage the same way our father had. "I've been telling myself for years that keeping the peace was the right call, that it was mature, that it was, I don't know, the cost of having a good marriage." He stopped. "But it wasn't peace, it was just quiet. There's a difference." I picked the wrench back up, turned it in my hands. "Claire's the one you need to talk to," I said, "not me." "I know. She might not want to. She has every right not to." "I'm serious, Victor. You don't just show up with an apology and get the relationship back. That's not how it works." "I know that too." He stood up. "I'm not expecting anything. I needed you to know that I know what I did, what I didn't do." He looked at me. "I'm sorry, man, for all of it." I thought about it for a long moment, about the Halloweens and the hospital parking lot and the week he spent at my house after Susan's funeral, when I couldn't get off the couch. People fail you in one chapter and hold you up in another, and you have to decide whether the whole book is done or just that part. "She's working Sunday lunch," I said. "Riverside Diner, corner of 5th and Mound. She gets off at 3. He nodded, walked back to his car. "Claire called me that Sunday evening. Uncle Victor came to the diner." "I know." A pause. "You didn't tell me." "I didn't want to preload you." "He sat in my section," she said. "On purpose, I think. He ordered coffee and pie, and he left me a $40 tip on a $12 ticket. He said he should have stood up for me a long time ago." "What did you say?" "I said I appreciated it, that I hoped he meant it." Another pause. "I told him he'd have to prove it over time." "That sounds right." "Did I do okay?" "You did exactly right," I said. "Your mother would have said the same thing." Spring unfolded slowly the way it does in Ohio. Gray until it isn't, and then all at once the trees are green and you can't remember the cold. Victor started coming to Columbus on occasional Sundays. We grilled in the backyard. He came to Claire's end-of-year presentation at OSU and sat in the 3rd row and paid attention. He didn't bring up Adrian. He answered whatever questions Claire asked and didn't push beyond what she offered. Small things, consistent things. By summer, he'd moved into an apartment in Clintonville, close enough to see his kids on weekends. He told me he'd had a hard conversation with Madison about Thanksgiving, about what she'd said to Claire, about the culture she'd been raised in, about the kind of person he wanted her to become. He said it hadn't gone well at first. She was defensive, then quiet. Then, 2 weeks later, she'd texted Claire an apology. No prompting. Her own words. Claire showed me the text. "Is this real?" she asked. "I think it might be," I said. She saved it. Claire starts her final year of nursing school in August. The oncology scholarship covers her full clinical placement. She's already been in contact with the department at Riverside Memorial, the same unit where her mother was treated, about a residency position after she graduates. The supervising nurse there remembered her from her volunteer hours, said she'd never had a volunteer who asked better questions. I think about Susan sometimes when I watch Claire work. The same steadiness, the same refusal to cut corners, the same way of caring about people who can't give her anything in return. We had dinner last week, the three of us, me, Claire, Victor, at a small Italian place off High Street. Nothing planned, just food. Victor told a story about something his son had said that made Claire laugh hard enough to cover her face. I sat there and watched and thought about that sunroom in November, that wicker love seat, the throw blanket she'd draped over her own legs because nobody offered it to her. And I thought about how the people you love will often protect you from pain by absorbing it silently, and your only job, the most important job, is to pay close enough attention to notice. I should have followed her down that hallway the moment it happened. I know that. I would give a lot to go back and do that differently. But I know this too. The moment it finally mattered, I stood up. She saw me stand up. And she's carried that with her. That's what I want every parent to hear. Not the champagne tower moment, not the big speech. Just this. They are watching. Every day, in every room, they are watching what you do when it costs you something. Make sure what they see is worth watching. I keep coming back to the pecan pie. Claire watched 4 YouTube videos to learn the lattice crust. She practiced it twice before Thanksgiving because she wanted it to be right. She carried it to her uncle's house in both hands, careful not to tilt it in the car. And it sat on that entryway table for 3 hours without anyone touching it or even acknowledging she'd made it. That's the thing about people who have real character. They keep showing up with their best, even when the room doesn't deserve it. Claire did that for years before I was paying close enough attention to see it. She absorbed every slight, every candle set with the store logo still on it, every time she was pointed toward a lesser chair, and she never once told me because she was protecting me from the grief of it. That kind of quiet strength is not something you're born with. It's built through years of waking up and choosing to keep going when the easier thing would be to harden or quit. What happened to Adrian wasn't luck or coincidence. She built a life around appearances. She organized people by what they could offer her socially, seated them by their usefulness, excluded anyone who complicated the image she was trying to project. And the thing about living that way is that it teaches everyone around you to do the same calculation, including the people closest to you. The man she'd been having an affair with, the one she was so desperate to impress at her own dinner table, was running the same ledger she was. She just didn't know she was on the wrong side of it. That's not fate punishing her. That's the simple math of how you treat people eventually coming back around. Victor is the one I think about most. He's not a bad man. He never was. But he made the slow, quiet choice that a lot of people make. He decided that peace was more valuable than honesty, that keeping a comfortable life was worth more than standing up for a 22-year-old girl eating a Capri Sun in a sunroom on Thanksgiving. He told me later that he thought he was being mature, that he was choosing his battles. But there's a version of wisdom that's actually just fear dressed up in reasonable language, and he lived inside that for years. What changed him wasn't losing the marriage. It was that Saturday in my garage when he asked out loud, why wasn't it me who stood up? That question, sitting with it honestly, not deflecting it, that's where character actually gets built or rebuilt. Intelligence without the willingness to ask hard questions about yourself is just cleverness. And cleverness without honesty will always eventually run out of road. Claire's going to be a good nurse, not because of her GPA, though that matters, because she already knows how to be in a room with someone who is suffering and give them her full attention without needing anything back. She learned that partly from her mother and partly from years of waiting tables and treating every customer like they were worth her best effort regardless of the tip. That is not a small thing. That is the whole thing. I should have walked down that hallway sooner. I know that. I think about it more than I say, but what I know now at whatever age I am is that the moments that define you as a parent aren't the big speeches. They're the smaller ones. Whether you notice, whether you ask the right questions, whether your kid ever has to protect you from the truth of what they're carrying, pay attention. The cost of missing it is something you'll work on forgiving yourself for a long time.